ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकलामकं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरोन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादां सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशकारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदाय कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौरतिशे नमः। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्ते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी विश्वभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये नीलाचल निवासाय नित्याय परमात्मने बलभद्र सुभद्र जगन्नाथाय ते नमः। वंशाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यः च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयति गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदेवतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्येश्वरं। हरि ओम तत्सत्। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते जगन्नाथस्वामिनिति नामिने नमाचार्यपादाय प्रपदाय गौरकथामदाय नगरग्रामतारिणे। हरे कृष्णा। So today we will start chapter 5 Bhagavad Gita, which is Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness. So at the end of fourth chapter, we have seen that Krishna has spoken about transcendental knowledge. In the chapter 4 beginning, Krishna speaks about the parampara of transcendental knowledge. Then Krishna speaks about the divinity of his birth and activities, Janma Karma Chame Divyam. Then Krishna speaks about that he is the culmination of all paths, but he is not affected by karma. Then we have seen that different methods of attaining transcendental knowledge, different kinds of yajnas, and in verse number 34 we have seen another effective method of attaining jnana, that is to surrender unto a bona fide spiritual master. And then rest of the chapter speaks about the glories of transcendental knowledge. But in the last two verses of fourth chapter, Arjuna develops a doubt. So in that chapter 4, text number 41, chapter 4, text number 41, Krishna speaks that one who acts in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of actions, and whose doubts have been destroyed by transcendental knowledge, is situated factually in the self. Thus he is not bound by the reactions of work, O conqueror of the riches. So Krishna is telling about renouncing the fruits of actions, right? Yoga sannyasta karmana. But Arjuna has understood that I have to renounce the work only. Krishna speaking about renouncing the fruits of his action, but Arjuna understood that he has to renounce the work only. And then in the verse number 42, Krishna has spoken, therefore the doubts which have arisen in your heart out of ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. Armed with Yoga of Bharata, stand and fight. So this brings a confusion that Arjuna is thinking in the previous verse, verse number 4.41. Krishna is speaking about that you should renounce from work. Although Krishna has spoken that you should renounce the fruits of your work, but Arjuna has understood that I have to renounce work. And now in this 42nd verse, Arjuna is understanding that Krishna is telling him to fight. So this seems contradictory to Arjuna. So then Arjuna is asking a similar question in the beginning of the 5th chapter, similar to the question asked in the 3rd chapter. That whether should I renounce the work or should I fight? Which one is better? Arjuna uvacha sannyasam karmanam krishna punaryogam cha samsasi Yashreya etayorekam tanme bruhi sunishchitam. So now Arjuna is speaking that I am really bewildered. Yashreya etayorekam tanme bruhi. Kindly speak only one thing, sunishchitam. Definitely. Kindly speak only one thing. Do not speak. Sometimes you are telling me to fight, sometimes you are telling me to renounce work. But actually, Krishna is speaking the same thing again and again, but Arjuna is misunderstanding here. Arjuna said, "Oh Krishna, first of all, you ask me to renounce work, and then you again recommend work with devotion. Now, will you kindly tell me definitely which of the two is more beneficial?" So Arjuna is again confused. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Sannyasa Karma Yogascha Nishayasa Karau Ubhau Tvayastu Karma Sannyasat Karma Yogo Vishishatem. The reply of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is similar. That Arjuna, for you, Karma Yoga is better. Similar reply Krishna gave in third chapter, but because Arjuna is asking the same doubt second time, Krishna will elaborate on this fact in this fifth chapter. Actually, third and fifth chapter are similar, but here Krishna will speak more elaborately because Arjuna is asking the same doubt for the second time. The personality of Godhead replied, the renunciation of work and work in devotion are both good and for liberation. But of the two, work in devotional service is better than renunciation of the work. So we have discussed that in the third chapter also Krishna has spoken, Lokesmin dvividhanishta pura prakta paratana jnana yogena sankhanam karma yogena yogina. So by working in devotion, you will also reach Krishna. And the culmination of all transcendental knowledge is to know about Krishna and to become engaged in his devotional service. So in that sense, both are leading to the same goal. But for Arjuna, for you, working in devotional service is better. So Prabhupada is giving quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah. So this is from Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, very nice verse. Prapanchikataya buddhya harisambandhi vastuna mumukshobhi parityago vairagyam falgu kathyate. So if someone is renouncing the things, opulences, and his different duties just for the sake of renunciation, that is called false renunciation or falgu vairagya. Actual vairagya is अनासक्तस्य विषयान् यथार्हम् उपयुञ्जता निर्बन्ध कृष्ण सम्बन्धे युक्तं वैराग्यम् उच्यते. Whatever we have to engage them in service of Krishna. That is true renunciation. Then Krishna speaks. One who neither hates nor desires the fruits of his activities is known to be always renounced. Such a person, free from all dualities, easily overcomes material bondage and is completely liberated, O mighty armed Arjuna. So, a person is neither is hates nor desires. That means he is equipoised. He does not have attachment to some particular kind of activity and he does not hate some other kind of activity. Everything is on equal platform to that person. Equanimity. That person is situated in equanimity. So now if we see the chapter breakdown of different sections. So in chapter 5, Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness, in the first verse, Arjuna is asking a similar question, Sannyas or Karma Yoga, as Arjuna asked already in the third chapter. So now from verse number 2 to 6, Krishna will explain that how Karma Yoga is equal to Sannyasa for Jnana Yoga, but it is easier to perform. And Karma Sannyas is not Sannyas of Karma, but Sannyas in Karma. So why Arjuna is asking this doubt again and again? Because the root cause is Arjuna is misunderstanding the point of Krishna. Whenever Krishna is speaking that you free from the bondage of work, you free yourself from the fruits of your actions, then Arjuna is understanding that I have to renounce work. But Krishna is telling that give up your attachment, do not give up your work. So therefore, the meaning of karma sannyas is not clear to Arjuna. Arjuna is understanding that Karma sannyas means sannyas of karma. I have to renounce all my karma or all my work. But Krishna actually meant sannyasa in karma. With a spirit of sannyasa, you work. With a spirit of detachment, you have to work. And you work for me, then automatically you can cultivate that spirit of detachment. So considering all these things, Karma Yoga is suitable for Arjuna. That is 2 to 6. Then 7 to 16, Krishna again elaborates that how performing Niskama Karma Yoga. That means sannyasa in karma that will free one from the bondage of work. And Krishna is giving the analogy of the lotus leaf. How the lotus leaf is in water, still it does not get wet. And in the last section, 17 to 29, how such a person get liberated by focusing on the supreme, that is described. And in the final verse of this chapter 29, Krishna declares himself to be Bhuktaram Yagyatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suridam Sarva Bhutanam. So this is called peace formula. So we'll get into that. So we are now in the section 2 to 6. We're in the third verse. One who neither hates nor desires the fruits of his activities is known to be always renounced. Such a person, free from all dualities, easily overcomes material bondage and is completely liberated, O mighty armed Arjuna. So you need such equanimity. You should not be attached or you should not hate something. Only the ignorant speak of devotional service or karma yoga as being different from analytical study of material world. Sankhya and karma both are same. Both lead to the same goal, but those who are actually learned say that he who applies himself well to one of these paths achieves the result of both. Because the culmination of these two paths is in devotional service. So therefore, if you practice any one of them, you can reach. But here Krishna is recommending Karma Yoga for Arjuna. One who knows that the position reached by means of analytical study can also be attained by devotional service, and who therefore sees analytical study and devotional service to be on the same level, sees things as they are. So this analytical study or Sankhya and Karma Yoga both are in the same level. Then Krishna is telling, merely renouncing all activities yet not engaging in devotional service of the Lord cannot make one happy. But a thoughtful person engaged in devotional service can achieve the supreme without delay. So if one thinks that only by renunciation I will get liberation or I will not be bound by the fruits of work, that is not true. Actually, one cannot get liberation only by renouncing the fruits of renouncing the work itself. If one has to get liberation, then one has to do the work for Krishna in a spirit of detachment. And if one works for Krishna, that spirit of detachment is automatically cultivated. So that is the actual way to get liberated from the bondage of karma. But Arjuna is misunderstanding and he is thinking that renouncing my activities, I can be free from the reactions of work. So that theory is not correct. Krishna is emphasizing. One who works in devotion, who is a pure soul and who controls his mind and senses is dear to everyone, and everyone is dear to him. Though always working, such a man is never entangled. So, if a person is working in Karma Yoga or Niskam Karma Yoga in a spirit of detachment, right? So, one who works in devotion means here Karma Yoga. And Srila Prabhupada is adding that factor of devotion because we discussed earlier that he want to give us more mercy and he is giving the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. So by controlling the mind and senses, one who is working in devotion to please Krishna, he is dear to everyone, everyone is dear to him. Although such a person is working, he is never entangled. So this is the nature of Niskam Karma Yoga. So this is the actual art of working. If you work in such a way, you will not be bound by the works, reactions of your activities. A person in the divine consciousness, although engaged in seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving about, sleeping, breathing, always knows within himself that he actually does nothing at all. Because while speaking, evacuating, receiving, or opening or closing his eyes, he always knows that only the material senses are engaged with their object and he is aloof from them. So such a person is in true knowledge. One who is working with a spirit of detachment, he is in true knowledge. He knows that this body is functioning according to the material nature. Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha ahankar vimudatma karta hamiti manyate. So he does not consider that I am the doer. He knows that this material body is functioning because of material nature and I am soul. I am just desiring. I am not actually acting. The soul is desiring, Paramatma is sanctioning, and material nature is functioning. So, although such a person he is acting in a detached manner. He knows that I am not the doer. The actual doer is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and under his instructions, the material nature is doing all these activities. One who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the results unto the Supreme Lord, is unaffected by sinful action, as the lotus leaf is untouched by water. Padmapatram Imam Bhasha. So if we work in such detached manner, then and we surrender all our results unto the Supreme Lord, then we will be unaffected by the sinful reactions. So like the water cannot wet the lotus leaf, so we also, if we practice this detached work or Niskam Karma Yoga, we will not be affected by sinful reactions. So this was one of the arguments of Arjuna in the first chapter, and Krishna refuted this by speaking Niskam Karma Yoga in the second chapter. The yogis abandoning attachment act with body, mind, intelligence, and even with the senses only for the purpose of purification. So the yogis also work. They work in devotion. They work with detachment. So they also work, but they work abandoning attachment. They does not get attached to the fruits of the actions, and they, with such detached manner, they work with their body, mind, intelligence, and even with the senses. But the only purpose is for purification. They does not desire any kind of sense gratification or personal benefit from their working. Therefore, they are called yogis. They want to please Krishna and thus they want to get purified. The steadily devoted soul attains unadulterated peace because he offers the result of all activities to me. Whereas a person who is not in union with the divine, who is greedy for the fruits of his labor, becomes entangled. So, this is the difference between a detached worker and an attached worker. So, if someone is detached or he is offering all the result of activities to Krishna, then such a person will get liberated because he will not be bound by any kind of reactions of actions. Whereas a person who is not in union with the divine, one who is acting for himself, for his personal sense gratification, who is greedy for the fruits of labor, such a person will become entangled. So you can see Krishna is speaking the same point again and again, just to elaborate and elucidate the fact that Arjuna, you should not misunderstand my statements. Whenever I am telling you that you should abandon karma or karmic reaction, that means that you should abandon the attachment, not the work itself. When the embodied living being controls his nature and mentally renounces all actions, he resides happily in the city of nine gates. So the material body is called the city of nine gates. Two eyes, two nose, two nostrils, and two ear holes. Six, mouth, seven, anus, and genitals. So this is nine holes. So therefore, this material body is called the city of nine gates. So when the embodied living being controls his nature and mentally renounces all actions, he resides happily in the city of nine gates, neither working nor causing work to be done. So this is the true renunciation, right? So when we are able to control our mind, and we are not desiring any kinds of sense gratification, and we do not intend to enjoy with our senses. If we reach such a state, then even if we work, there is nothing wrong. That work will not cause bondage to us. So that is the true renunciation. The embodied spirit, master of the city of this body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature. So we already discussed the thing that yeah, the soul only can desire. The soul can only desire, the Paramatma will sanction, and the material nature will function. So, like any activity we are doing, like if we intend to drink some water, so we are picking up the glass and drinking some water. Okay, so this is not so easy. There are lots of phenomena involved in this simple activity also. So, how this is happening? The soul is desiring that I want to drink, and then Paramatma is sanctioning that desire, that okay, you want to drink this water, okay, I sanction you. And then material nature is functioning actually. We are not functioning. We think that okay, I am lifting the glass. No, I cannot lift the glass. This material body is completely different from me. I have no connection with this material body. I have no control over this material body. We may think that we have control over our body, but really that is not true. You can think that whenever I want, I can move my limbs, and I can do whatever. I have full control over my body. But no, actually, that is not true. Actually, we can only desire. Suppose we want to lift our hand, we can only desire that I want to lift hand. Then the Paramatma will sanction that, okay, I sanction your desire of lifting the hand. And then this body belongs to material nature. This body does not belong to the soul. The soul has been given some amount of period to stay within this body. The soul is allowed to stay within this body for some time. It does not mean that soul is the controller of this body. The soul desires, and then Paramatma sanctions, and this material body is under the control of the material nature. And when Paramatma sanctions the desire of the soul, the material nature controls this body in such a way that the desire of the living entity is fulfilled. So, if we want to lift the glass, we can only desire, Paramatma will sanction, and then material nature will control this body. Material nature will uh, make this hand lift the glass so that the desire of the living entity is fulfilled. So, therefore, if we know all these things and we do not do any activity for our personal sense gratification, for our personal enjoyment, so that person is in true knowledge and he is true renunciant. The true renunciant does not mean that I have to renounce all my work. True renunciant is that person who understands this phenomena of how living entity, Paramatma, and material nature is working, and then he is engaged in detached work. So that is true renunciation. But Arjuna was thinking that renouncing the work is true renunciation. But that is not true. Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. So, here is an important statement. So, we have to understand this. Sometimes people misunderstand this principle. So, you know that Krishna is the supreme controller, right? And there is a saying that not a single blade of grass moves without the consent of the Supreme Lord. So then one may question, then there are so many heinous activities going on in this material world. Someone is murdering someone, and someone is doing wrong activities, so many sinful activities. So now, if Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate cause of everything, then he must be the cause of this murder and all kinds of criminal activities also. So Krishna is only making the criminals do all those sinful activities. So then the criminals does not have, they have not committed any sinful activity. Everything is happening by the desire of Krishna. So is this theory true? So that is here explained. The Supreme Lord assumed, nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. So we think like that, but actually the Supreme Lord does not take anyone's sinful or pious reactions. So one analogy can be given. So here also we know that we have discussed that if you want to do any kind of activities like lifting the glass also, we need the consent of the Supreme Lord. But the Supreme Lord is not responsible for that activity. Why? Because it was the desire of the soul. It was not the desire of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Personality of Godhead as Paramatma has sanctioned the desire of the living entity, but it was the act of murdering was not the desire of the Supreme Lord. It was the desire of the criminal. The Supreme Lord has sanctioned. So, like if I go from one place to another by car, okay, and I tell the driver that I want to go from Mumbai to Delhi. Take me from Mumbai to Delhi. So now the driver drives the car from Mumbai to Delhi. And at the end of the journey, the driver is charging me that you have been charged this amount of rupees and you have to pay. So if then I say that, see driver, this car is yours and you have driven the car and everything is done by you. So then why you are charging me? So I cannot say that because the driver is doing all the activities. Driver is taking me from one place to another and the car belongs to him. Everything, every arrangement he is doing. But it was my desire that I want to go from Mumbai to Delhi. So all those activities, all those following activities, driving of the car and mm, filling fuel into the car and all the necessary activities are done due to my desire. Due to I desire from for going from Mumbai to Delhi, all the subsequent actions has been taken. Therefore, I have to take the responsibility. So I cannot say the driver that why you are charging me. You have done everything because it was my desire, right? So similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is sanctioning. The Supreme Lord as Paramatma sees our pious and sinful accounts, and by seeing those pious and sinful accounts, he is giving us permission. If a criminal is saying, I want to do a murder, the Supreme Lord is giving permission, okay, you can do. By verifying his sinful and pious accounts, the Supreme Lord is only sanctioning, okay, you can do. I give you the permission. But giving permission does not mean that Supreme Personality of Godhead as Paramatma, he wanted that murder to happen. It was the desire of the criminal, and the Supreme Lord just sanctioned that activity. So, in this manner, you can understand this theory is also correct that even a blade of grass, like no blade of grass, even a blade of grass cannot move without the sanction of the Supreme Lord. This theory is correct. Every activity has to be sanctioned by the Supreme Lord. But at the same time, every activity which is happening is not essentially the desire of the Supreme Lord. Sometimes, if the child is very much adamant that I want to do this, I want to do this, although the father understands that this is harmful for that child, due to the adamant nature of the child, the father may allow that, okay, you can do it. And when you will suffer the reactions, you will understand that I was telling you not to do this activity for your welfare only. So, due to the adamant nature of the living entity, sometimes the Supreme Lord, as Paramatma, he sanctions activities or desires of the living entities. But that does not mean the Supreme Lord wants that activity to happen. So I think this is clear now, that why the Supreme Lord is not responsible for our sinful or pious activities, because we have desired to do all those activities and the Supreme Lord has just sanctioned. So I always give an example, like a small child is, he does not know, he is an ignorant child, and he wants to put his finger into a running fan, table fan, you can imagine. So the child is wanting to put his finger inside the fan. So the parents are telling that please don't do it, please don't do it. So the child is not listening. So then the father told that okay, let him enter his finger into the table fan, then he will understand and he will not repeat that activity again. So the exactly same thing happened. The child entered the finger and he got tremendously hit by the running fan. And then again, the child never wanted to do repeat the same activity. So the Lord can force us, and he can forcefully the Lord can make some arrangements so that we cannot do any sinful activity. Yes, Lord is all powerful. He can do it. Forcefully, he can restrain us from doing sinful activities. Yes, he can do it. But he wants the transformation of our heart. That is, the forcing is not a permanent solution. So, like the parents can lock the child into a room and they can forcefully separate the child from the table fan so that the child can never reach table fan. But this is not a permanent solution because the heart of the child is not transformed. Whenever he will find opportunity in future when the parents are not there nearby, the child will again go to the table fan to enter his finger. So therefore, to have a permanent solution, the Lord is allowing us. Lord can restrain us from doing sinful activities, but He allows us because when we do the sinful activities and get the reactions, and then there is a transformation in our heart, and we don't want to repeat that activity again. Therefore, the souls who are in this material world for really long times, they have done so many sinful activities and they have tried to enjoy this material nature in so many ways, and they have failed in their attempts. So all those impressions of failed attempts are there within them, and then automatically a detachment comes. Automatically the living entity thinks that there is nothing in this material world, so let me surrender unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Maybe that is the only shelter. So therefore, because we are desiring, we are only responsible for our activities and the Lord is only sanctioning. And we also discussed the reason why Lord sanctions. Lord can forcefully restrain us, but He wants transformation of our heart, so that for that reason, He allows. When, however, one is enlightened with the knowledge by which nescience is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything, as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. So, by performance of Niskam Karma Yoga, the knowledge will arise and it will dispel all ignorance like the sun. When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation. So, like that, if one fixes his mind, faith, refuge, everything in Supreme, then automatically this detached work happens. Because if I am doing for Krishna, then surely I am not doing for myself, and that is detached. And by doing that, we become completely purified, fully cleansed from misgivings, and we attain liberation. So, this is liberation on focusing on the Supreme. The humble sages, by virtue of knowledge, see with equal vision, a learned and gentle Brahmana, a cow, elephant, dog, and dog eater. विद्या विनय संपन्न ब्रह्मणे कवि हस्तिनी सुनी चैव सपाके च पंडिता समदर्शिन. So one who is in true knowledge, he sees everyone in the equal platform. He does not discriminate. He sees everyone in the platform of the soul. And in the platform of the soul, there is no distinction. Everyone is the servant of the Supreme Lord. In the bodily platform, there is distinctions. But one who has transcended this bodily platform, his vision is full of equanimity. Those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. So such a person has already conquered birth and death. The cycle of birth and death no longer exists for them. They have attained liberation. This is called Jiban Mukta stage. Iha jasa harer dasya karmana manasagira nikhilasva vivastasu Jiban Muktasu uchyate. So although that person is living in this material world, but that person does not belong to this material world. He is in the spiritual world. They are flawless like Brahman, and thus they are already situated in Brahman. They are in the transcendental platform or Brahma Bhuta stage. A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant or laments upon obtaining something unpleasant. So that means again equal. Dukkhesu anudvignamana sukhesu vigataspriya bhitaraga bhaya krodha sthita dhir muniricchate. In the second chapter, sthita dhir muni or sthita pragya, same qualities are described. He does not rejoices upon achieving something pleasant or does not lament upon obtaining something unpleasant. Everything is equal. He is working for Krishna in a detached manner. And whatever Krishna gives, he accepts just. He does not complain that why Krishna you have given me such unpleasant things. Or he does not get so much elated that oh I have got some achievements. No. He is self-intelligent, who is unbewildered and who knows the science of God is already situated in transcendence. So the characteristic of such a person who can do that are explained. Such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure but is always engaged in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. So the pleasure of such a person does not depend on external things. He finds pleasure within himself. The internal satisfaction because he is satisfying Krishna. Jasmin tushta jagat tushtam. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme. An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. So the characteristics are all matching with the characteristic of a sthita pragya. जे ही संस्पर्श जा भोगा दुख जो नये एवते अदंत बंत क्वंते या नातेषु रमते बुधा. A sthita pragya also does not he is not interested in sense gratification, gratifying the senses with sense objects. Such kinds of external bodily pleasure he is not interested in. He is interested in some higher taste. Vishaya vinivartante nidaharasya dehinam raso varjam rasopyasya param drishta nivartate. So then, before giving up this present body, one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses, check the force of desire and anger. He is well situated and is happy in this world. So, such a person can control his material senses, material desires, the urges of anger. Like in Upadesamrita, we have seen Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam, Yuha Vegam, Udarupastha Vegam, Etan Vegan, Javishaheta Dhira. So, all those different urges he is able to control. And one whose happiness is within, who is active and rejoices within, and whose aim is inward, is actually the perfect mystic. So, he does not find pleasure in this external material world. He finds pleasure in the platform of the soul, Atmarati. He is liberated in the Supreme and ultimately he attains the Supreme. So, in this way, in this consciousness, if a yogi acts, then he can attain the Supreme. Those who are beyond the dualities that arises from doubts, whose minds are engaged within, who are always busy working for the welfare of the living entities, and who are free from all sins, achieve liberation in the Supreme. So, in this way, there is this section predominantly speaks about liberation by focusing on the Supreme. So, this is we have come to the end of the fifth chapter, and now sixth chapter is going to start. And in the sixth chapter, Krishna speaks about Ashtanga Yoga. So Ashtanga Yoga or Dhyana Yoga, the Dhyana Yogi meditates on the Supreme Lord and gets Darshana Paramatma and thus get liberated. So Krishna is shifting slowly towards that. Therefore, in this last section of fifth chapter, Krishna is speaking out liberation on the Supreme, liberation by focusing on the Supreme, and then in Ashtanga Yoga, how to concentrate one's mind in Paramatma by mechanical process of breath control and performing 8 different limbs of Ashtanga Yoga, that will be explained in elaborate manner. Those who are free from anger and all material desires, who are self-realized, self-disciplined, are constantly endeavoring for perfection, are assured of liberation in the Supreme in the very near future. So here Krishna gives some glimpse of Ashtanga Yoga, shutting out all external sense objects, keeping the eyes and vision concentrated between the two eyebrows, suspending the inward and outward breaths within the nostrils, and thus controlling the mind, senses, intelligence. The transcendentalist aiming at liberation becomes free from desire, fear, anger. One who is always in this state is certainly liberated. So Krishna has spoken about how to attain liberation through Niskam Karma Yoga. Krishna has also spoken about that Sankhya Yoga and Niskam Karma Yoga, they are on the equal platform. But Arjuna, for you, I recommend this Niskam Karma Yoga. So in the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains different paths to attain the Supreme Lord. Sankhya Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and then Niskam Karma Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga will be explained in the 6th chapter. So different paths have been explained that Arjun, there are many options, and I am explaining all these options. But the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita is Krishna is telling Arjuna, although there are many paths, there are many options, and I have elaborately discussed that how to go through different paths and what are the benefits and what are the merits and demerits of all those paths I have explained. Now my suggestion to you is that you try to attain me through Bhakti Yoga. So that is the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. Because through Bhakti Yoga, I am achievable, and through Bhakti Yoga, I am really accessible in an easy manner. You can easily get me through Bhakti Yoga. By all other different yoga methods, I am very difficult to obtain. न साधयति माम योगा न धर्म संख उद्धव न सद्धायस्तपस्त्यागो जथा भक्ति ममोर्जिता. Krishna speaks the same thing in 11th canto Srimad Bhagavatam to Uddhava. And this is the last verse. Krishna is telling, this is called the peace formula of Bhagavad Gita. Bhuktaram yajya tapasam sarva loka maheshwaram shruhitam sarva bhutanam yatmamam shanti michhati. So there are 3 things. If you know these 3 things, then you can attain peace. What are those 3 things? Bhuktaram yajya tapasam. Krishna is the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities. Sarva loka maheshwaram. He is the supreme lord of all planets and demigods. Suhridam sarva bhutanam. He is the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities. A person who is in full consciousness of me and knows all these 3 things attains peace from the pangs of material nature. So this is the way of liberation. So in conclusion, Krishna is speaking that if you know myself to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities and Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, and I am the well-wisher of all living entities, then automatically you will do all your activities offering unto me. And by that you will do detached work, right? Work in devotion. And by that you will attain liberation and you will attain my planet. So here ends the 5th chapter is ending here, and now in the 6th chapter Ashtanga Yoga will be explained in elaborate fashion. So Krishna has explained, removing all the doubts of Arjuna, that how Krishna actually meant that sannyasa in karma, but Arjuna misunderstood sannyasa of karma. So this is the karma sannyasa yoga or 5th chapter. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, you can ask. or comments? And please read the purports also, because due to scarcity of time, we cannot go through all the purports. Any questions? Okay, no questions. It is clear, right? So let me ask you one question, which is very important in this chapter. That why the Supreme Lord is not responsible for our activities? Srinivas Prabhu.
Because we desire that activities and he will sanction only if we desire. So we are ultimate cause for activities.
Yeah. Because we are not the ultimate cause. We are responsible. The ultimate cause is Krishna, because without his sanction, nothing can work. So now, why Krishna sanctions our activities? So some different Rahul Prabhu, you should say. So
To
yeah.
because our adamant nature is so that we can transform our heart will be transformed. Krishna will thank.
Yes, very good. So these are very important concepts, and many people argue on these things, and they in this way they become atheist. They propagate the atheistic philosophy that if Lord is there, why so many wrong things are happening, and Lord is responsible for everything. So there is no God. Ultimately, they conclude like that. So these are very important concepts for preaching. Okay, thank you. We have assimilated nicely. Thank you for your attention. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. श्रीमद् भगवद गीता एज इट इज की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। वंशाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।